Dear learners, welcome back. So last lecture we have discussed about the transaction processing in distributed database management system. So the transaction in an RDBMS, relational database management system, must be with the properties, ACID properties, atomicity, consistency, isolation and durability. So each transaction must obey this particular property in relational database management system. The same thing we expect in distributed database as well. So in the last lecture, we discussed about the transaction processing for handling the atomicity property, especially to ensure the atomicity property of any transactions. So that atomicity property ensures that either a transaction is completed in its entirety or none of them have happened. That means during a transaction, a data item which is in an old consistent state enters into the new consistent state after successful completion of the transaction. So this property is very, very important. Suppose if anything happens, like a failure happens during the execution of this transaction, so we want to ensure that the old consistent state is retained, or if the transaction is successfully completed, we want to ensure that a new consistent state is retained. So this is the idea behind the atomicity property. So in distributed database, we have several sites where the data items are stored. Now the thing is, our transaction is not just working with one particular site. So it may be involved in several sites. It may be involved several sites. So if I try to change my data item in one particular site, I have to change in other sites as well. Or if I need data item from other sites, I must take all these data from those sites into the requested site. So these are all the very basic requirements to ensure atomicity. So that we have discussed about these in the last lecture using the commit protocols. So the commit protocol, the coordinated site, we have a coordinated site, we have a participating sites. So the request wherever is given, that particular site is a coordinator site, and the coordinator site, if the data item requested is not available with that particular site, then it has to choose the correct site where the data are available. So now it is going to coordinate that particular transaction by requesting other sites, by generating sub-transactions of the initiated transaction. So this way, once all are ready to commit, all the transactions, all the data items, from all the different sites involved in this particular transaction, if all the participating sites are ready to commit, then only we are going to commit, otherwise not. So this way we can ensure that atomicity property, that is, if all sites are ready to commit, we can commit the transaction, otherwise we can abort the transactions. Now we are going to the second level, that is concurrency control in distributed database. So this is another very important aspect in transaction processing. Concurrency control. So what is concurrency control? So concurrency control is, if a data item is trying to be accessed by more than one transactions simultaneously, then we have to decide which transaction should be given the priority or which transaction should be given the accessibility for that particular data item first, so that we can avoid the inconsistency problem. So what happens, suppose if I permit more than one transaction to use the same data item simultaneously. So one particular transaction is going to change the value to, for example, 50. Another transaction is going to change the value from some other value, from 50 to some other value, as an outcome of these transactions. Now, what is the result is an inconsistent state. So let us take a very simple example. There is a joint account. The joint account maintains 1000 rupees as a balance. Now the users, that is the joint account holders, they are trying to access their account simultaneously from two different ATM machines. Now what happens? So A requests 500 rupees and B requests 200 rupees. So if the transaction happens serially, the balance should be 300. It is not something else. But if it is happening concurrently, at the end of the transactions, what we are going to have is either 500 is a new balance or 800 as a new balance. So this is a problem that is because of permitting transactions to access a data item simultaneously. So this is what concurrency control is about. So here, see here example, we have a server and the data item resides in the server, and there is a user 1 and there is a user 2, and user 1 is trying to access a data item A to update A, and user 2 also requests for the same data item to update or to just to verify the values, to just read the data item value. Now in this case, if I permit both these transactions to access simultaneously, now we may end up in inconsistent database value. So concurrency control is one of the important concept in transaction processing. Now how do we do that in distributed database management system? Concurrency control, the data distribution, how the data are distributed in a centralized database system or in a distributed database system plays a major role. In centralized database system, only one possibility, that is the table, for example, it's stored in only one site. It's not stored in all the sites. But in case of distributed database system, there are several possibilities. That is, your table may be fragmented and table may be replicated, or the hybrid of this. That is, a table is fragmented, then some of these fragments may be replicated. So this is a complication here. So now where the data are available. Now because of this reason, it is little complex. Say in a centralized database management system, I have just one copy. So we have a lock manager component, we have a transaction manager component, we have a concurrency control manager component, all in the same site. Now I can decide whether it is being locked or this particular data item is being used by some other transactions or not. If it is free, I can permit others to access this data item, so that it is possible here. But what about the distributed database system? Because we have data fragmented, it is not an issue, because fragmented data are going to be unique in each site, and each site I have different copy of the data, so that the local lock manager or local transaction manager, local concurrency control manager of that particular site is responsible for this one. There will be no issues. But in case of replicated data, that means same copy of the table may be stored in multiple sites. Now, no site can claim the ownership for this particular data, because it is stored in multiple locations, the same copy. So in that case, it is a little bit complicated in distributed database to handle concurrency control. So what are the concurrency control approaches that we have? We have single lock manager approach, one of the approaches. The other one is distributed lock manager approach. That is, we have a lock based protocol system that is very well used in handling concurrency control. So single lock manager approach is similar to the centralized database system lock managers. So we have only one lock manager, whereas distributed lock manager, we have many things. We have many different lock manager approaches we have to use. So we have the primary copy protocol, majority protocol, biased protocol, and quorum consensus protocol. So these are the various protocols we have to handle the distributed lock manager and concurrency control of distributed database management system. In single lock manager approach, the idea is very simple. We have a dedicated lock manager site. That is, a site is chosen from among all the sites as the lock manager site. So assume that I have a distributed database which is stored in say a number of sites. Now we will choose one site among these sites as the log manager site. So whenever a request comes to any site, that site's transaction manager is responsible for forwarding a lock request to the lock manager site. So the lock manager site takes this lock request, it verifies its lock table. If it can be granted, it's going to grant the locks. Otherwise, it is going to deny the lock until the data item is free. So all locks will be granted by the lock manager site in our case. So in this example, we have 6 sites in this distributed database: site S1, S2, S3, S4, S5 and S6. All are connected. And for our case, we choose the site S3 as the lock manager site. So now what happens? So suppose if any request comes for a data item D on the lock manager is site S5 transaction, T1 request for data item D to the site S5. Now the site S5 has to initiate a lock request to the lock manager site. So we have just one site which is acting as a lock manager site for all the data items. That is, especially we have talked about the data item D in this example. So wherever the request comes, doesn't matter, that particular site has to forward the lock request to the lock manager site S3. Now this lock manager site checks for its local database whether everything is okay or not. If the lock can be granted, S3 is going to respond with a granting message to the initiating site S5. Upon receiving this data, this request, then what S5 is going to do? It's going to consume the data wherever it is available, and it is going to change or read whatever it is. This is single lock manager site approach. So what are the advantages of this single lock manager site? It is very simple and deadlock handling is simple in this case. And disadvantages is lock manager site becomes a bottleneck. That means all the lock request has to converge at one point, that the lock manager site, so that becomes a bottleneck. So more traffic will be there. And second issue is lock manager site is vulnerable to failure. So it's possible that the lock manager site fail. So in such case, we are losing those who have locked the particular data item, or we have to come up with a new site that is going to handle all these future requests. So these are all the disadvantages of single lock manager approach. So the second approach is distributed lock manager approach. So what are the difficulties, what are the problems that we faced with the single lock manager approach? So distributed lock manager approach is going to involve all the sites that have the data items. And here local data items are controlled by local lock managers. So each site have their own transaction manager, they have their own concurrency control managers, and they have their own lock managers. So we involve all these lock managers, all these sites to handle the concurrency control. So in distributed lock manager approach, we have 4 different variants. One is primary copy protocol, the second one is majority protocol, bias protocol, and quorum consensus protocol. And this is especially for the replicated data items. So if the data items are replicated and available in more than one site, now how do I access my data item? Where to lock? How to proceed my transaction? So let us see one by one. Primary copy protocol. So in a distributed lock manager, a primary copy protocol is, we have a primary copy and a primary site. So one replica of data item is primary copy, and the site that holds primary copy is a primary site. That is, we have a number of sites and a data item, say Q, a data item Q is replicated in 5 sites, and for data item Q, we choose one site as the lock manager site or primary copy site. So now we are going to request only the primary copy if I am trying to access the data item Q for locking purpose. Okay, so we see an example here. So here in this example, LMS is lock manager site or a primary site. So we have S3, which is an lock manager site for a data item Q, and we have S6, which is acting as a lock manager site for data item R. So we have data items Q, R, and S are distributed here. Now, so request is given, the transaction T1 request for data item Q at S5. Now, the S5, the requested for the data item Q. So though the data item Q is available with S5, it has to first acquire a lock for proceeding further. So it is going to request, send a lock request to the lock manager site S3, and as usual the lock manager site is going to verify its lock table. If the requested data item Q is free, then it is going to grant the lock to S5. If it is not free, it's going to postpone that granting of locks. So once receiving the locks, S5 is going to start its process. That is, it's going to consume the data item. So in our case, we are requested for Q, and Q is with S5 itself. So Q can be utilized for transaction T1 to successfully complete. Once the transaction T1 completes successfully, it's going to release the lock by sending a unlock request to the lock manager site. Now the thing is, assume that I'm going to read a data item. I'm going to read a data item Q. Now this can be done in S5 itself. I don't need to communicate any further to any other sites. But in case of writing a data item Q, that is, I'm just going to, my transaction is going to modify. Let's say example, I'm going to withdraw the money from my account, and my account data is replicated and available at many sites. Now once my value is updated in one particular site, the same thing to be propagated to other sites as well. So that has to happen as well in case of if the value gets changed. So once the value gets changed, what S5 will have to do is, S5 has to send the update request to modify the value of Q for sites wherever the Q is stored. Then at the end, the transaction is completed and it can unlock the lock, whatever it has gained. So this is an example of primary copy protocol. So what are the advantages of this? So handling of concurrency control on replicated data is like unreplicated data items. So it is like a centralized approach, because we have only one copy, only one site is acting as a primary copy site or a lock manager site. So we can easily handle it. And only 3 messages to handle lock and unlock requests. So for example, if I want to lock a data item Q, first thing is I have to request the lock by sending a lock message to the coordinator site or lock manager site. If the lock can be granted, the lock manager site is going to send a granted message to the initiated site. And once I have completed my transaction, the initiated site is going to send a unlock message to the lock manager site, so that the lock manager can release a lock and it is available for, made available for other new transactions. And the disadvantage is single point of failure. It is just like a single lock manager approach, where we have only one copy for particular data item. So that particular data item, if that site fails, we cannot access the data anymore. The second approach is majority based protocol. So local lock managers are responsible for issuing locks. So now assume that we have the data item Q, which is replicated in several sites. Now according to this protocol, I need to lock majority of the sites to proceed my transaction. To proceed with my transactions, I need to lock at least half plus 1 sites. So assume that I have 5 sites in which Q is replicated. Now I have to request at least half plus 1, that is half 2 plus 3 plus 1 sites to lock my data. 2 plus 1, 3 sites I have to request for locks. That means I have to send a request to site 1 lock manager, site 2 lock manager, and site 3 lock managers. So once if I acquired locks from all these 3 sites, then only I can proceed with my transactions. So this is what is about the majority based protocol. See this example. We have 6 sites, 6 distributed sites. Now site S1 have the data item QRS, site S2 QRS, and site S3 QR, site S5 S, site S4 R and S, site S6 Q and S. So these are the data items. So you see here Q, R, S, all these data items are replicated in this scenario. Now a transaction T1 request for data item Q. So now according to this Q is replicated in S1, S2 and S3 and S6. So we have Q is replicated at 4 different sites. So according to this majority based protocol, if I want to use that data item, now I have to acquire lock at least half plus 1, 3 sites I have to lock. So it could be either S6, S1, S2 or S1, S2, S3, doesn't matter. I have to lock at least 3 sites. That means I have to send a lock request. For example, I am just sending a lock request to S3, lock request to S3, lock request to S1 and a lock request to S2. Suppose if I am granted the lock from all these 3 sites, then I am good to go. I can proceed with my transactions. So once my transaction successfully completes, I am going to respond with unlock message to all these sites. So like in the previous case, I need to update the changes. If suppose if I have changed my data item, I have to inform the changes to other sites. Other sites, for example, in our case, S6 was not contacted, so I have to update the value of Q at S6. If it is read operation, no issues. I can just continue with whatever I have done so far. So this is a majority based protocol. Okay. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of majority protocol? So advantage is replicated data handled in decentralized manner, hence no single point of failure problem. Now if one particular site is failed, still we have the other sites. Suppose out of 6 sites, 1 site is failed, we have 5 sites. So again I can do the same calculation, 5 divided by 2 plus 1, that I can proceed with the calculations. And I can lock only that many sites and can continue the process. But the disadvantage is number of lock and unlock and grant messages. So in a case of primary copy protocol, I need to send only 3 messages. But in this case, n by 2 plus 1 lock request, unlock request and grant messages. So 3 sites are involved. So each site 3 messages. So 9 messages I need to communicate with other sites. Second disadvantage is shared and exclusive lock with the same complexity. So shared lock, I am going to just read the data item, and exclusive lock I am going to change the data item. So but here shared and exclusive lock will be treated both same way. That means both needs 9 different locks in our example. As per our example, it needs 9 different locks, so that it is somewhat complex. So to overcome this problem, we have another method called biased protocol. So here again, local lock managers we have are responsible for issuing locks. Now if the data item Q is replicated over n sites, then a read lock request message must be sent to any one of the sites, not to all the sites where Q is replicated. And for write lock, exclusive lock, I need to lock all the data items, that is all the sites wherever that particular data item is replicated. So it reduces the burden on read locks. But write lock, I have to lock all the data items required. In this example, again S5, a request comes for data item Q. This example is for read lock example. That means transaction T1 request for data item Q in read mode, in shared mode. So in this case, a lock request is sent to any one of the sites. So in this case, in this example, we have sent a request to site S3, and if site S3 the data item is not locked by any other transaction, then site 3 S3 is going to respond with grant message. Then S5 is going to consume the data wherever it is available. So for example, if I'm data item, I can consume the data from S5, S3, or I can take it from S6, or I can take it from S1 or S2, wherever I can just read the value from any one of these sites, and I can finish my transaction. Once the transaction is finished successfully, S5 is going to respond with a unlock message to the lock manager site. So here, one site among all the sites where the particular data items replicated is chosen as the chosen for locking, that is handling read locks. That is to handle read locks for read lock transactions. What about write lock transaction? So in that write lock transaction, we need to lock all the sites. We need to lock the data item at all the sites wherever that particular data item replicated. So for that same process, same example, T1 requests for data item Q in write mode. So Q is replicated in S1, S2, S3 and S6. Now the job of S5 is to initiate a lock request to all the lock managers at S1, S2, S3 and S6. Then it has to receive a grant message from all these lock managers. Until then I have to wait. Then I can proceed with my transactions. So say for example, suppose some other transaction requested S3 for lock on Q in read mode and is already being consumed. Now in such case, S3 cannot grant me a lock. That means S5 has to wait for S3 to release a lock. That is, that particular data item, say let us say T2, which is consuming Q in read mode, has to release that particular data item. So until then I have to wait for S3 to respond with my granted lock message. So S5 can continue the writing, that is transaction which is requested for Q in write mode, only can proceed if all the replicated data items lock managers have granted with a lock. Otherwise, no. So suppose if I get all these locks, then I can continue with my transaction. Then I can release at the end of the process, I can release lock by sending messages to appropriate sites. So this is how the biased protocol work for write locks. And the final one is quorum consensus protocol. So quorum consensus protocol, it is a generalized version of biased protocol. So we have discussed about the biased protocol, where we have a very lenient way of doing for read locks. On the other hand, it's a little bit complicated for write locks. I have to acquire locks from all the participating sites, all the sites where the data items replicated for biased protocol. Now this quorum consensus is going to reduce the work. So it works as follows. The protocol assigns each site that have a replica with a weight. So each site is given a weight, and each data item is given a weight, assigned a weight. And these weights are called QR, that is a read quorum if you want to read that particular data item, and a QW if you want to write that particular data item. That is, if you want to read Q, then you need to have a value QR for the particular data item. If you want to change the value, update the value, then there is a value QW. And how these values are chosen? So these values are chosen according to these two conditions. They said QR plus QW is greater than S. That is, S is the total weight. S is the total weight of all sites in which the data item replicated. So if I say data items X, then how many sites it is replicated, then the total weight of all these sites is S. Now I have to choose a value QR and QW such that QR plus QW should be greater than the total weight of all sites, and 2 times QW should also be greater than S value. So that means we try to give a little more importance to write quorum than read quorum, but QR plus QW greater than S this rule avoids read-write conflict. Somebody is trying to read, somebody is trying to write. If less values are given, they can easily lock and started reading it. So to avoid that, two transactions cannot read and write concurrently. So to avoid that part, QR plus QW is greater than S is chosen, and 2 times QW is chosen to avoid write-write conflict. If two of these transactions trying to write the data item simultaneously, they lock on their own, they are going to continue with that one. So to stop that write-write conflict, this this calculation is needed. 2 into QW should be also be greater than S. And now when a site is requesting a data item, now the data item is replicated in a number of sites. Now the question is, how many sites I need to lock? So number of locks required for read operation is greater than or equal to QR for a data item. If the data item has a value, QR value for a read, now the initiating site has to lock as many sites as the value is greater than or equal to QR. Same for write operation, I have to lock as many sites where the total weight is greater than or equal to QW of that particular data item. So let us see an example of this. So we have two cases. The first case is, take read quorum QR is 2 and write quorum QW is 3 for a particular data item Q. For a data item Q, we have read quorum 2 and write quorum 3, and each site weight is 1. Each site weight assigned is 1, and of course total weight of sites, all sites are going to be 4. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. Now if I want to read, now I have to acquire logs from that many sites. The sum of the weight is going to be greater than or equal to QR. Greater than or equal to QR. So our QR is 2 in our case. So I need to lock only 2 items. Only 2 sites need to be locked. Then I can proceed with my transaction. So that, like whatever we have discussed in the previous protocols, the same way we are going to send a message, lock message to S1 and S2, and we get acquire the locks from the lock manager S1 and S2, and we can proceed with the transaction. The same case, if I want to write, my write quorum value is 3. That means I have to lock number of sites so that the sum of these sites is going to be, sum of the weights of the sites going to be greater than or equal to 3. So I have locked 3 different sites. Now once I acquired logs from all these different sites, I can proceed with my transaction. So it ensures that no 2 transactions can read and write at the same time. See, actually you see this, there is a overlapping. So there is a overlapping between read and write, so that I cannot do this one. So second case, let us assume that read quorum is 1 and write quorum is 4. Read quorum is 1 and write quorum is 4, and as usual the site weight is 1 and total weight of sites is going to be 4. Now for this read lock, I need to lock the number of sites where the sum of weight is going to be greater than or equal to 1. Now I just need to lock only one site. So I have locked S1 and I continue my transaction. And in case of write lock, I have a quorum value, write quorum value 4. That means I have to lock all these 4 sites. Then I can proceed with my transaction. So this is like similar to biased protocol. Like biased protocol where I have issued only, I need only one data item to be locked in case of read, and in case of write I need to lock entire all the sites. So this is similar to that one. So at the same time, if we make any read and write quorum with the same value, then it resembles implementation of majority based protocol. It's based majority based protocol. So that's the reason why quorum consensus protocol is mentioned as the generalized versions of these biased protocol as well as majority based protocol, and it works far better than this is. This is like voting, so voting protocol. Okay. So in all these cases, what we are doing is, in all these cases, especially for writing data items, I need to get the logs. Once the logs are acquired, I'm going to proceed with the transaction. once the transaction is successfully completed, and it is very responsible to send the messages to all the other sites where this particular data item is replicated. Otherwise, we are going to end up in an inconsistent state. Okay. So previously we discussed about atomicity problems using commit protocols. Now in this case, so how do we handle the concurrency control using these protocols? So to make all the stored values are consistent, once the transaction is over, it is a very responsibility to communicate the changes to other sites to update. So there are methods are available. So that may be a lazy propagation that I can do it later, or before I am going to unlock my data items, I can just ask the other sites to update the values. But in case of reading, read request, it is not an issue, because I'm just going to read, I'm not going to disturb the values, so I can just go with the particular data item. Okay. So this is about concurrency control in distributed database, and any doubts can be discussed in the forum. Thank you.